if you've set up the safe senders to have Gradescope.com properly, then occasionally you will get an email that looks much like this one. So this is a fake example, but I created a sample account where the name of the student is sample student, and you'll get an email that looks like this. The subject line will say something like, your quiz 1 has been graded. This is an email that has been automatically sent by Gradescope.com. What kicked it off was that I, as your instructor, had finished grading, in this case, quiz 1, and after looking at all the grades and making sure everything looked right, I asked the system to send an email to each student individually. So each student who did the quiz would be getting an email that looks like this, and you might have something like this for an exam as well, or a different type of assignment. So what you do is you click on this link that comes from this Gradescope email, and it will, well, it's opening up a new tab. I'm already signed into Gradescope, but if you weren't, it would ask you to sign in, I suppose. And what you see here is a scan of just your work. You won't see any other students' work, and no other student will see your work. This particular item was a quiz. This quiz had 3 questions. You see here that I've just sort of filled in some kind of sample work, and so this particular student earned 6 out of 10 points on question 1, 10 out of 10 on question 2, and 0 out of 10 points on question 3. So let's just dig into each one of these individually. First, I think I'll start with question 2 because this was the perfect score. I could even zoom in here and you can kind of look at the work for that question. But what I'll do is what you should do is you don't want to just know that you got, in this case, let's say 16 out of the 30 points possible. You can actually dig into quite a bit of information, and what you need to do is you need to click on this text here. So this is my own little representation of what the question was about. So just click on the question title right here, in this case, solve y to the 4/3 power equals negative 4y. So you click on that. And then what pops up is all of the individual rubric items. So in this case, what I try to do is I try to make the first several rubric items all positive points. And if those items are all selected, then that's a case of a student probably earning full credit. Now, it doesn't always work out like that, but in this case, you see how there's a little box surrounding this. So this is a rubric item that does apply to this particular student. So this student earns the first 2 points, and then this rubric item applied and earned the next 2 points, and the third rubric item here applied and earned 2 points, and the fourth item earned 2 more points for a total of 8 so far, and then this fifth rubric item, 2 points earned. So that's where the 10 out of 10 points comes from. You see down here, this next rubric item is not inside a box, so this is not selected and does not apply for this student. Right? So it says something about no imaginary numbers in this problem. It doesn't apply to this student, but the whole point is that this comment, which was a 1-point penalty, applied to some other students. So you can see that all students can scroll through and see what all of, and this was a pretty involved problem as far as the types of errors that could be made. You see all these red items, and the whole idea here is that even if you got full credit, or even if you didn't get full credit, you can look through here to see what type of comments may have applied to other students' work. So maybe we close this off and let's take a look at, for instance, how the student earned 6 out of 10 points for question 1. Now, I want you to focus right here where that dot is, because that's actually incorrect. Let me zoom in here a little bit. That dot should actually be filled in. And what I want you to stare here as I click over here. So again, stare right there where that open circle is. And if I click, you'll notice that there's a box surrounding that right now. Let me unclick the question and then re-click, and you see that box surrounding this, and they'll come up again in a second. So the way that one should earn 10 points for this question is to earn the first, second, third, and fourth rubric items, which are worth 1 point, 3 points, 3 points, and 3 points. Right? That would get you to your 10 points. And these items are selected for the student because more or less these things did occur, but there were several issues. So you notice that in addition to these things being selected, the first, second, third, fourth rubric items are selected. The fifth item is not selected. This did not apply to this particular student, but the next rubric item did apply, and this item is a 1-point penalty. It says be sure to use a square bracket by the 10/3 because the number 10/3 should be included. So that's trying to discuss right here why there shouldn't be a parenthesis but a square bracket. Moreover, there's a more severe penalty, a 2-point penalty that applies. It says that, you know, in terms of the interval notation, that it should go from 10/3 to infinity, not from negative infinity to 10/3. So it says something about how these two are swapped and that we shouldn't have negative infinity here, but rather positive infinity there. Okay, so in addition, if you scroll down, there are some other rubric items that didn't apply to this student. These, again, may have applied to other students. But then there's this one other -1 here that says that the number line diagram should have a filled dot instead of an unfilled dot. That was that location right here that I was talking about, and you'll see that here this text says, see the highlighted portion of your quiz. So what I can do as an instructor is I can highlight a certain thing in a box, and that's what I mean. I'm trying to draw your attention to right here to indicate, hey, this circle right here is a thing that needed to be filled in. So let's see if the points seem to make sense. That it was 1 + 3 + 3 + 3. That should be 10 points, except there was a 1-point deduction that takes you to 9. 2 more points deducted that takes you to 7, and then a 1-point deduction down here that takes you a total of 6 points. So I hope this makes sense as far as how the points were earned. And as the semester goes on, the thing to do is maybe not be too concerned about exactly the nitty-gritty of how points are earned. The most important thing I think to do is to really look at the rubric items, look at the text that's being said, look especially at the items that have this, you know, this red ink right here, this, you know, this was a penalty of some kind, and it's important to understand, you know, the common mistakes, and even take a look through, even if it doesn't apply to you, please read through the comments that applied to other students' work as well. Finally, we can take a look at question 3. This student earned 0 out of 10 points. You can see that the way to have earned credit would have been this 2-point item, and then this 2-point item, and this 2-point item, this 2-point item, this 1-point rubric item, and finally this 1-point rubric item. But you see through here, there's other ways that students may have lost points. There was a way to earn partial credit of 1 out of 8 points, and so on and so forth. So in this case, this particular student had this 0-point item apply that was in some sense a comment. The student, in the opinion of me as the instructor, did a particular error, a particular ignoring of something that was so egregious that it really didn't earn any points.